You seem confident.
Our hordes will overwhelm you.
Now you seem overconfident.
Fight!
Guess it's left.
Finish him! Fatality. Jade wins.
Hello everyone and welcome to what has been actually quite an entertaining Kombat Kast 2 for what is the road leading to Mortal Kombat 11. Unlike the first Kombat Kast, there were less, mechanical glitches within the system when it came to the actual stream and its quality, so that allowed me personally to enjoy the stream a lot more, considering the fact that the previous Kombat Kast had so many sound desyncs and video desyncs and all this scrambling about, which actually wasn't really enjoyable to watch. So when the stream actually goes according to, I guess, what they planned for it to be, things run a little bit smoother and generally people enjoy it more. Less fluff around the edges. The Kombat Kast 2 was generally shorter and I enjoyed it. I really can't say much. This will be a news update for MK11 as of today, the 14th of February. So for everyone listening in, happy Valentine's Day. If you enjoyed it with your significant other, I hope you had a good time, and if like me, if that significant other does not exist, well, I still hope you had a good time. So let's talk about a few things that happened before the Kombat Kast and during the Kombat Kast. In essence, Jade has been revealed. I'll reserve my comment as to what I think about Jade for later, but the significance of Jade's reveal, now that is actually the deal breaker when it comes with this game. Jade's reveal confirms, in my opinion, or at least we can speculate that it confirms, that the Steam database leaks are actually very factual and, to my understanding, might be extremely credible. The reason why I'm saying that is Jade did come out as one of the achievements within the Steam database, and even though a 16-bit had already mentioned in the previous Kombat Kast that the next character, like it's her, like, you know, some female character we should have been all waiting for, this reveal was already in the schedule. We were just lucky that the characters were leaked way ahead of time. So in this case, I'm actually starting to believe that the Steam database leaks are actually 100% possibly very factual. So expect those things to happen, and credits to SteamDB for leaking information. Thank you very much. You've made my life a whole lot easier. So if you didn't check that out, you can look at the previous video I uploaded talking about the Steam database leak. In essence, Ed Boon tweeted as well earlier on this before the Kombat Kast, talking about how he went about it jokingly. Most people might come out in anger or frustration towards something as big as a roster leak. A roster freaking leak. He went about it saying that, you know, Sonya, tell me, what do you think about how can I say this? Well, like Sonya, what do you think about, you know, character leaks? And he put Sonya doing the fatal blow. It was quite fun to watch, quite fun to look at. In essence, it's just Ed Boon pointing a finger out at Steam. Well, not directly at SteamDB, but I mean they're the ones who did this whole fiasco, and it led to what it is. But either way, thanks to them, this kinda means that things are set in stone, set in motion at this point. So expect Aaron Black, expect Kotal Khan, expect all the people you saw in that leaked roster. Another thing to note during the Kombat Kast, and this is something someone actually pointed out in previous trailers that came out before the second Kombat Kast, and potentially in the first Kombat Kast as well that featured Ed Boon, Baraka's voice has changed. Some people said that Baraka kind of sounded like Reptile. Kinda. Maybe. I'm not really sure, I wasn't paying that much attention. But people are saying that Baraka's voice is much deeper, so there's a possibility that they went back to the voice actor and redid some of the major lines, and that in turn made his voice quite deeper. But either way, I'll play his voice note and you can kind of discern for yourself if his voice is deeper or not.
Cowards will overwhelm you.
And then, like I said, way before we talk about Jade, I'm gonna look at some of the things that happened in terms of the UI, the user interface. The user interface kinda still looks the same. So like I said, this is me moving along that notion of this is potentially, well, I strongly believe it is. I just use the term potentially just not to hurt people. This is what the game is. This is what the game is going to look like on release day. Fair and fine, things may change. They always say things may change, but not much can actually change at this point. At least nothing extremely dramatic. So at this point, what you see generally is what you might get. The only things that may really vary might be small tweaks here and there, few fixes here and there, but in terms of the visual appeal of the user interface and the graphics, it looks like it's been set in stone. If you take a closer look at the user interface, in the previous video I noticed that they were numbers indicating how much stamina you have on your offensive and defensive meters. That is still the same. But one thing they did note and say, and that was the variation boxes were muted out from this current build that they were using of the game, because I guess they wanted to touch up and polish on the icons themselves. Whether they will look any better or any nicer, really I can't tell, but for now I guess you could safely say that generally speaking this is the game. This is what the user interface is going to look like. The graphics as well, noting that most of, or should I say all footage when it came from the Kombat Kast looks like it's being run on an Xbox One X. So in terms of console fidelity, to be honest, I'm not a console player, so this whole console war thing doesn't appeal to me, but the Xbox One X is in fact factually the most powerful console made, so chances are graphics wise, I guess this is what the game is going to look like. The only thing that could potentially look better is the PC version, maybe. The reason why I say maybe is that usually developers want a consistent graphical fidelity across all platforms, so that most people don't complain and say, oh, my platform looks butt ugly, looks dead ass compared to the other one. They don't want people arguing, so things kind of level out and look generally the same. That's why PS3 and Xbox 360 releases of MKX were scrapped. Besides the fact that they poorly developed the game, they had to find a way to make it look good, and I guess they couldn't really find the way. But in terms of that, the graphics are looking roughly the same. But a shout out to the animations. This is what actually makes me think that this is what the game is going to be. The animations look crisp. The animations genuinely look good. Not all of them though. Definitely not all of them. But the animations do look extremely crisp. Shout outs to NetherRealms yet again for, improving upon the game. I'm always finding bones to pick with Mortal Kombat since I was a baby. Till this day, there are so many bones I could pick. We could make a graveyard. But the thing is, at least I can't take it away from the fact that from Midway to NetherRealms, they have been trying to make a good game. They fail at times, most of the time, but they're trying their best. But I'll reserve my comments for another time. Still touching upon the fact of how the game looks, how the game is playing. We can talk about the physics. Notice some in-game physics, and Matt Burke actually pointed it out when it came to Jade's glaives, that when they actually land, they don't just immediately disappear. They have a small little animation, a hit impact animation when they touch the ground, and then they land, and then they fall down, stuff like that. And when he said it, I actually hadn't paid attention to that before. It wasn't actually something I was looking out for. But when he said it, I actually thought back to myself. I was like, yeah, the glaives actually have physics upon impact and then upon landing on the ground, falling and folding over, which made me wonder, are there any more physics related, physics related actions, animations and movements within the game? If so, that would be cool. And if there is physics in the game, well, at least to some degree, does that mean for the PC community they might be how can I say this without pissing people off? Would they be a boost to Nvidia players as compared to AMD if we're gonna be dealing with physics and PhysX? Don't know if PhysX is still a thing. Bear in mind, it's been that long since I kept up with what Nvidia was doing. If physics is still a thing, would they actually be a specialized feature for the PC community when it comes to enhanced physics particles? If so, that would be cool considering how good the game looks. Now you consider the great graphics plus physics on a 4K monitor running MK11. Now that's something I'd actually pay money to see. Before I toot their horn and say that they did a great job, they still had the terrible audio It feels like when it comes to trailers as a whole, they have a terrible audio desyncing problem, and I feel like NetherRealms needs to address that. Well, at least their studio that's in charge of the streaming and the live streaming, the podcasting, whoever's in charge needs to kind of pull up their socks in that department. This is now the second time.
Of video game history. How would they fare in a fight to the death with the laws?
2 weeks in a row, and like I said, this is a million if not billion-dollar industry. Or should I say, $1 million or $1 billion studio. They have to do something. They have to fix that stuff, because at some point people will look back at all this footage and be like, what went wrong? And then moving on to, I guess, the last segment of this particular section. Before, when they were playing in the washed up warrior section, not to take away what happened from in that particular segment, like I said, they really did a great job, and I feel like if you want to support NetherRealms and MK, go watch their VOD. It will probably be up on the YouTube channel and on their Twitch channel as well. So most definitely, if you want to get the full experience, go watch the VOD. I'm not going to give away what was happening. I'm not going to take away from it. Just know that I had a really good time. And thank you to them, I guess, for the footage you're seeing right now. But within that VOD, there was a time when Baraka was talking to Jade, and Baraka made or was it Jade who actually made the comment saying that Kitana Khan wouldn't be happy about that.
Rule of Outworld was to be shared.
Kitana Khan would have us surrender it.
She seeks only compromise.
So in this particular case, moving on from the story of MKX, of course, Shao Kahn's, in the past we thought Shao Kahn's gone and Kotal Khan was defeated, so of course a new Khan is in order. That's just how things work in the Outworld and all that stuff. So Kitana, according to this piece of dialogue, is the current Khan, which makes sense. And if Kitana Khan is the current ruler, bear in mind Kotal Khan has been leaked in the Steam database and Shao Kahn is a pre-order character. How is that gonna tie in with the story? I really don't have any answers, but I was just thinking about the vein of Kitana Khan is the ruler, Kotal is there, Shao Kahn, I can't call him Shao Kahn, I'll just call him Shao is there, Kotal is there. It's kind of weird without their title and their name. Shao and Kotal are there. What the hell are they gonna be doing? And you know, Kitana's in charge. I don't know. But anyway, before moving on to Jade, I would just like to say that Baraka might just be the best character ever made in all time. In the whole existence of fighting games and character creation, Baraka's character in this game is amazing. As he fights, as he moves, just who Baraka is just makes me happy. Not saying that I'll play the guy, but I think you get what I mean. He has a lot of personality within his moves and animations, and like Derek was saying in the stream, it's when it comes to creating a character, most often than not, you want to make sure that their personality is felt as you play the game. And when I was watching this, I was like, most definitely there is a personality, there is a persona that's being put forth when Baraka is doing his things, and that's very impressive to me, something I actually admire. And just thinking about it, Baraka, a really good character. But moving on to, I guess everyone is hyped as hell, even though I've never liked Jade my whole life. I repeat, my whole life I never liked Jade at all. But Jade is back, of course. Since Chronica's around, we can play with timelines, the dead can come back, we can revisit the dead while they're alive, whatever. At this point, with this story arc, they could put anyone in the game and it would still make sense thanks to Chronica. Jade is in the game, she's a zombie, she's a revenant. I would like to point out that I've never actually liked the Revenant designs at all, and if this is how the new Revenants are going to look like, I definitely do not like this dead ass design. This is some butt ugly stuff. When it comes to the green, she looks green, like her skin is green. She looks like I said, Jade is a zombie now, and like a low budget B-rate movie zombie, not even something amazing. Not saying that the character is bad, I just hate the color scheme in terms of what the Revenants will look like. So I'm not a big fan of the look, but the character looks interesting. Definitely still won't play her. That hasn't changed. Like, if I could go back in time to myself as a kid, nothing would have changed. Nothing would have changed. I never liked Jade, never will. But at least her movement, like I said, the animations look great. Derek pointed it out that it's like it's a dance when she's fighting, considering that she's, part of the Royal Guard. She's an assassin, she's strong, she's powerful, but she has that grace within the movements to show that she's in utter control, and that bleeds over to her gameplay. When they were talking about how she wants to control the mid range, slow the pace down and try whittle down the opponent, through strong footsies, which is a good thing to see in a Mortal Kombat game, I guess, as long as it just doesn't turn out to be Injustice Part 3. But yeah, not a big fan of the Revenant look. And the glow effect, literally in my notes I have glow effect equals dead ass. That animation, those particles look horrendous. Please, can someone fix that nonsense? It's like, functionally speaking, the glow effect looks like it actually has a really good use. It's an anti-zoning tool on top of anti-zoning tools. It's the king of anti-zoning tools in the sense that you just can't be zoned, full stop. That's it. But it looks ugly as fuck, I ain't gonna lie. And there was a time when he made a comment saying that you can use, they were talking about Jade's glaive and how you can throw it as a projectile. That's primarily one of its biggest uses. From the ground, in the air, you can throw it into the air as an anti-air projectile, stuff like that. So similar to Akuma in Street Fighter games, you can use the glaive in the air. It's a diagonal projectile arc, and you can use it to stop your you can use it to stop your descent while jumping. So it's gonna be really good baiting anti-airs, with punishing people, considering you can throw the projectile while jumping back. Most fighting games steered away from that. In the past they had jump back instant fireballs, and then they saw that my word, this can be really cheesy, and most current games stayed away from that, and like you can only do it either neutral jumping or jumping forward. That way the person has some chance to anti-air you, but jumping back, this could potentially be a very annoying move. But anyway, there was a very good point where he said you can use this for various things, especially going over ground pounds. I don't know if there's any current character revealed in the game that has a ground pound amongst the 8 or so characters that have been shown. If none of them do, that might have been a side or a small leak of potential characters. You might then guess, or you might think and speculate who has a ground pound move. If it's none of these characters, it means it's a character still yet to be shown. So that's homework for you watching this right now. Try figure out what or who could potentially have a ground pound who's in this game. And lastly but not least, in one of her variations, she actually had a special move which was a run. So in essence, run has been removed from MK11, but one thing I did notice is that certain characters are getting treatments that other characters don't have. So for example, the volleyball spike, which was a neutral jump punch in MKX, which would cause people to ground bounce, like you could juggle someone if you did a neutral jump and a punch. That was removed from the game for various reasons. You can go check out the previous Kombat Kast for reasons. But anyway, that was removed from the game in terms for balance and just moving along with the progression of the fighting game system in the Mortal Kombat universe. That was removed, but Scorpion still has it in one of his variations. So Jade has run in one of her variations, so you can still do run cancel stuff, and similar to the MKX vein, you can still run in and try and force some 50-50, even though Jade is not a 50-50 character in essence. So I feel like there will be certain characters within the cast that have key mechanics that existed in older games that are no longer universal mechanics, or maybe they might have been just removed entirely from the game. So I kind of like that. So for example, in the case that if you feel like maybe you don't like Jade but you really liked running and run cancelling in MKX, then Jade might be the character for you. So for example, if you feel like you want to air dash and do air dash shenanigans, maybe Cabal's the character for you. If you like neutral jump punching people as a whiff punish or on their wake up, meaty, stuff like that, then maybe Scorpion's for you. So they'll have these old mechanics that existed in previous games as individual character traits. But yeah, I don't know. Take it all with a grain of salt. Things might change like they said, but that's pretty much it, the summary of the Kombat Kast 2. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.